Todd McShay has more leaks. We're going to go deeper into that, as well as check in on Jackson Dart, the guy that they originally went with. Apparently, the Giants fans are loving him. Brian Daboll's loving him. But let's start with Cam Newton, because they had some, they're going to react to Todd McShay, or not Todd McShay, but Albert Beer down here, and they're going to go into detail here.
This private meeting with the Giants. And we have some videos to kind of talk about this. You know, the New York brought him in to a one-on-one during the draft, during the combine, and put him up to some tests, obviously, with plays and whatnot. And I don't think it went over well with Shedeur, allegedly.
They thought the story was over. The draft was done. The decision was made. The New York Giants moved on. But then Shedeur Sanders spoke. No shouting, no finger pointing, no bitterness, just a calm, deliberate message about next season, delivered with the kind of confidence that doesn't beg for validation. And in that moment, something uncomfortable happened across the NFL landscape. Fans paused, analysts hesitated, and Giants supporters asked the question that franchises hate the most. Did we miss something? Because when a quarterback you passed on speaks with clarity, discipline, and purpose, while your own future at the position still feels uncertain, the noise gets louder. This wasn't a viral rant. It was something far more dangerous. It was poise. And now, the New York Giants aren't being criticized for what Shedeur Sanders said, but for why his words hit so hard.
Maybe did they talk about playing with each other for the New York Football Giants? Well, Shedeur Sanders, he went on his podcast and he spoke about the interaction with Malik Neighbors. And I just want to say this. I was very impressed by the way Shedeur Sanders really gave some advice to Malik Neighbors to how he can handle the media a little bit better. You don't really hear that too often from a guy in college telling someone in the pros that. This is what Sanders said, quote,
"To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand what came before it. Shedeur Sanders didn't just appear on draft boards overnight. His resume was already built. Game tape filled with accuracy, toughness, and situational awareness. He played under pressure, took hits, stayed composed, and delivered when games tightened. Yet, as draft season approached, a familiar NFL pattern emerged. The evaluation shifted. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about mechanics or reads, it was about fit, about presence, about intangibles. Anonymous sources started saying things like, he didn't interview well. Some teams felt he came off too confident. There were concerns about personality. None of it was directly sourced. None of it was documented, but it spread, and the Giants were right in the middle of that conversation. Here's the uncomfortable truth about the NFL. Confidence is praised until it belongs to the wrong person. Shedeur Sanders grew up around football royalty. He was trained, prepared, and self-assured. He didn't shrink in rooms. He didn't over-explain himself. For some teams, that reads as leadership. For others, it becomes a red flag. And for franchises under pressure, especially ones with recent quarterback struggles, confidence can feel threatening because confident players don't accept broken systems quietly. Let's talk about the New York Giants. This is a franchise still searching for long-term clarity at quarterback. The fan base knows it, the league knows it, and internally, the pressure is constant. When the Giants evaluated Shedeur Sanders, they weren't just scouting a player, they were projecting control, optics, and risk. And in moments like that, teams sometimes choose comfort over conviction, the safer path, the quieter personality, the option that doesn't challenge the room. But history shows us something important. Teams rarely regret passing on talent immediately. They regret it when the player proves stable, consistent, and unbothered. Let's talk about the New York Giants. This is a franchise still searching for long-term clarity at quarterback. The fan base knows it, the league knows it, and internally, the pressure is constant. When the Giants evaluated Shedeur Sanders, they weren't just scouting a player, they were projecting control, optics, and risk. And in moments like that, teams sometimes choose comfort over conviction. The safer path, the quieter personality, the option that doesn't challenge the room. But history shows us something important. Teams rarely regret passing on talent immediately. They regret it when the player proves stable, consistent, and unbothered. Here's why Giants fans felt it more than anyone else. Because they've seen this movie before. A quarterback passes through their evaluation process. Questions override production. Narratives replace tape. And later, sometimes years later, the realization hits. It wasn't that the player couldn't lead. It was that the organization didn't listen closely enough. Shedeur Sanders didn't call anyone out. He didn't mention New York. He didn't need to. The contrast did the talking. After the speech circulated, something interesting happened. Analysts who once echoed concerns about intangibles suddenly shifted tone. Words like mature, grounded, focused, leader started replacing earlier descriptions. That's not coincidence. That's correction. And when the media corrects itself, it forces teams into uncomfortable reflection, especially ones whose decisions are now under scrutiny. Let's be clear, this moment wasn't about one interview, or one speech, or one team. It was about a system that often overcomplicates quarterback evaluation, especially when personality enters the equation. Shedeur Sanders didn't change who he was. The perception changed. And when perception changes after a decision is made, the pressure lands squarely on the decision makers. The Giants didn't respond. No statements, no leaks, no clarifications, and sometimes silence says more than words. Because if the decision was airtight, if the evaluation was complete, there would be no discomfort. But discomfort shows up in what isn't said. For Shedeur Sanders, the message was simple. He's moving forward. For the Giants, the situation is more complex. Every snap he takes, every calm press conference, every moment of growth will quietly echo back to draft night. And whether he becomes a star or not, the bigger question will remain. Did the Giants evaluate the quarterback, or did they evaluate the narrative? The NFL isn't just a league of talent, it's a league of decisions. And sometimes, the most painful ones aren't exposed by failure, but by quiet success elsewhere. Shedeur Sanders didn't deliver heartbreak, he delivered clarity. And now, the New York Giants are left facing the toughest question of all. Was the problem ever the player or the voices they trusted?